that freedom roll. Ain't nobody gonna stop me, nobody gonna keep me from marching down freedom roll. From the city of Kirkwall to the outer island, from the Berrydale forest to the Scapa water, this land was made for you and me. As I went walking down a ribbon-up highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that happy valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From the city of Kirkwall to the outer island, from the Berrydale forest to the Scapa water. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled and I followed my footsteps to evening stands and the Orkney beaches, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. Everyone, this land is your land. This land is my land. From the city of Kirkwall to the outer islands, from the Berrydale forest to the Scapa water. This land was made for you and me. When the sun was shining and I was strolling, and the cornfields waving and the dark clouds rolling, their voices chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From the city of Kirkwall to the outer islands, from the Berrydale forest to the Scapa water. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From the city of Kirkwall to the outer islands, from the Berrydale forest and the Scapa waters. This land was made for you and me. I was a bit alarmed and rather surprised when I heard that a small party of people had gone to Hoy, and they were people who believed in something called native Britons. I'm really interested in what a native Briton might have been, and so was George Mackay Brown actually as well. He didn't believe there was such a thing, and nor do I. Unfortunately, these people spent some time reading George Mackay Brown's poems, and I thought, my goodness me, there's a surprise. George Mackay Brown, who hated any kind of bigotry, racism, any kind of intolerance, who realised that Orkney was a place, a crossroads, a place where lots of people come and go, and always have, ever since the Vikings and before. So I'm just going to read you some George, just to let you see that poetry is a legislator, and poetry talks about freedom, not about repression. Poetry is about the important things in life. So, when George was young, he got very cross quite a lot. He was very frustrated because he had TB, and that meant that he couldn't go and fight against the Nazis, for example. He wasn't fit enough. So instead he turned to journalism, and he did a lot of very, very interesting journalism in the 40s and the 50s. And then he started writing poetry. And one of his early poems is about purity, and it's actually directed against Orcadians at that time in the 50s, who seemed to believe that Orkney people
were pure and didn't want any inbreeding or anybody coming in from outside. So it's in the words of a doctor. Now remember that doctors were delivering children in Orkney, and they were seeing the children and seeing who was being delivered. So the doctor says, a curious hodgepodge, these people, the Arcadians, proud of their purity of race. Purity, first the Aborigines that howked Skara Brae from the sand, then the Picts, those small cunning men who scrawled their history in stone. The Celtic fathers followed, and many a Pictic lassie, no doubt, felt their power in the bed as well as in the altar. Then the Tigers came from east over sea, the blonde butchering Vikings, whose last worry on sea or land was purity, as they staggered couchwards after a fill of ale. Finally, to make the mixture thick and slab, the offscourings of Scotland. But that's not all, for many 100 ships have ripped their flanks on Rora Head or the Nook, and Basque sailor lads and bearded skippers from Brittany left off their briny ways to cleave a furrow through Orkney crofts and lasses. No to speak of 2 world wars and hordes of English and Yanks and Italians and Poles who took up their stations here by day, by gun, by night, the ancestral box bed. Only this morning, at Maggie O'Corshland's, I delivered a bairn with a subtle, silk-selling Krishna smile. A fine mixter maxter. As he grew older, George became much more aware of his own Catholicism and of the very important part of Catholicism that is called caritas, which is about caring for your other human beings, and particularly caring for children. So here's a poem called The Island of the Children. A man with a silver beard wrote an invitation to a boy or a girl on every country on earth to a picnic like this on our island. They came, one after the other, one morning. They were all delighted with the black boy because he was black as ebony, and with the Chinese girl because she was yellow as starlight, and with the Eskimo boy because he was plump and smelt of ice and whales, and with the Greek girl because she was honey-coloured, and her words and her breath were like honey too. The Arab boy ran through the fields with the Jewish girl, their voices mingling. They were like one ancient wise harp of praise. A girl from Siberia and a boy from Arizona had great wonderment describing bear and cactus to one another. The 150 children delighted in all the animals round them, and the fish and the birds and insects. It seemed the day would never end till the old enchanter who had lured them to his island sang, "The sun's down, time to go home, to get on in the world and be wise." The 150 children woke up in scattered beds. A long, long time had passed. They found themselves the rulers of their countries, white-haired, grave and honoured. They made important speeches about freedom, progress, peace. From time to time, they spoke to each other across long distances, coldly. They set spies to spy on one another. They had maps with shifting frontiers. They revolved their globes often. At last, a silver-haired president discovered the island of the children on his map. His heart sang like a lark that dawn. But it was too late. 1,000 missiles were hurtling here and there. do a couple more, then I'll stop. And this is a song that Pete Seeger, or the poem that Pete Seeger wanted to use. It's an Epiphany carol, and it's very beautiful. It's called The Three Kings. They're looking for what? The three kings beyond their border. A new kingdom, peace and truth and love, justice and order. One was black, and one was brown, and one was yellow. A star crooked its jewelled finger. The three kings followed. Who did they meet, the three kings, among the thorns? Herod's captains, hunting with dogs and horns. One was brown, and one was yellow, and one was black. Here's what they found, a refugee bairn wrapped in a sack. What did they do, the three kings, when they got home? In Vietnam, Rhodesia, Kashmir, troubled they bide, until the kingdom will come. Right, last two. These are specifically written because George was often asked by charities and groups to put pen to paper for them. He did it, and quite often he didn't like the results. He felt, slightly constrained. But there were two that he was proud of, and I think he was right to be proud of them. This is for children in need, and it's a plea really well, it's a poem about hope. May this Greenland child be holding an orange and a loaf in her hand soon. May this child from wars far east get a fish in his thin yellow hand. Twins in a burnt African forest in a cold wind. Look, a van has driven their way with coats, blue and green. I think some sunset, a child dumb with grief may be given a guitar. Then all children in need dance under the stars till the bread-burdened sun rises. And then the last one, and it's particularly pertinent, to Tibetan refugees. May the house be firmly founded, and I hope there's a well ever springing near the door. There should be a fire, too, for cold nights, and a clear window to see the stars snapping their fingers. I imagine a cupboard with bread and cheese and fruit in it, so that a lost traveller may eat too. A good bed, chairs, a table, a jar with flowers and a book. And may the angels of mountain and of snow bend perpetually over that good house.
you say Marie, she is of Native American descent. So this is Welcome, Immigrante, and you've got the chorus on your sheet. Oh, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to my country, welcome home, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to the country that I love. Want to try that? Oh, welcome, Immigrante, to my country, welcome home, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to the country that I love. I am proud, I am proud, I am proud of my forefathers, and I say they built this country, and they came from far away to a land they didn't know, the same way you do, my friend. Oh, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to my country, welcome home, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to the country that I love. I am proud, I am proud, I am proud of my forefathers, and I sing about their courage, for they spoke a foreign language, and they labored with their hands, and they came from far away to a land they didn't know, the same way you do, my friend. So welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to my country, welcome home, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to the country that I love. And I am proud, I am proud, I am proud of my forefathers, and I sing about their patience, for the work they did was lowly, and they dirtied up their clothes, and they spoke a foreign language, and they labored with their hands, and they came from far away to a land they didn't know, the same way you do, my friend. So welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to my country, welcome home, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to the country that I love. Oh, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to my country, welcome home, welcome, welcome, Immigrante, to the country that I love, to the country that I love, welcome to the country that we love.
I was actually walking through between Monash and Rockwick when I heard about the racist incidents that had happened on the street in Kirkwall late at night, and indeed in one of the pubs. And me immediate thought, because I've been in Rockwick, I've been looking up at Peter Maxwell Davis's old residence, and in this, the centenary of George Mackay Brown's birth, I'd already been through the Caraway through to see the exhibition in the Peer Arts Centre about George, and there's a brilliant one in the Orkney Museum just across the road to celebrate on his life. So as I walked Gaia through between Monash and Rockwick, I thought, you know, what would George be thinking, you know, about the kind of language that had been used against folk that had come into this island and made the place their home, and given the poem that Maureen wrote earlier and the one that I had selected to read too, there's something there about communication before an event that I would only reflect on what's been happening over the past few days, and I'm really encouraged to see the number of folk that have turned out here and the support online for folk that have come in here and made Orkney the home over centuries and the recent decades. Because George certainly would have abhorred the thought of his poetry being used by the group, the faceless group that gathered up with the hooligans. When I was in communication with Simon Hall, it was Simon that had a hand in republishing the group of poems that piece about the doctor comes from. It's called Arcadian's 7 Impromptus, and it's for a bit of a plug, it's available for James Robertson's publisher, Catalonia, online for a lovely low figure of, I think it's only about 30 quid, and it's beautifully illustrated too. So, but Simon thought that the doctor piece would be ideal, and he said, it's funny, isn't it, how fascists always want to pretend they're intellectuals. Who do they think they're kidding? And I would just round off, rather than rereading the poem, with a quote for Bashir Ahmed, who was Scotland's first Asian Member of Parliament, and what he said goes for Scotland, but it also goes for a place like Orkney. And his quote is, "It's not where we came from that's important, it's where we're all going together."
Are you ready for another join in? This one's on your sheet. It's called Pieces of a Quilt. And I didn't know it until the day before yesterday, but it's so good I'm going to do it with you, and then I'm going to do it with every primary class that I learn, that I teach, until they beg me to stop.
My name is Beatrice. I'm here as part of the Orkney Pride Committee. I am 24, virgin 25, and for the past almost decade, I've been queer. And that sucked. I have wanted to leave practically since I was 15 because I never saw the bigotry in these islands changing. And the past couple of years have shown me that there is hope. This past couple of months, we held our first in-person Pride event right here on this green. Several hundred people showed up throughout the course of the day, and I've never been more proud of this island until today. There are about 70 of you here, and every single one of you are standing up for something that is so drastically important, something that has always been important, but is even more so now as our government cracks down on literally every minority they can find. It's like they have a list and they're just checking us off. And to see people fighting back against that is just the best feeling in the world. The story my mind always comes to is that of Mark Ashton. In the 1980s, he, along with several other people, founded Lesbians and Gays Supporting Minors. Mark passed away at the age of 27, still believing the motto that I carry in my heart. What is the point of fighting for your own rights if you're not willing to fight for the rights of others? So thank you to each and every one of you for fighting for those rights.
This is where the party ends. I can't stand here listening to you.
So we're Harry and Martha. We moved here. We live in Westbury. We moved here 4 years ago. And we wanted to share some Punjabi poetry with you. So bear with us. We did the English translation, which I think you get the spirit of it.
Hi. This is it's kind of a song. I'm not a poet or a singer or any kind of music person. We were just decided on the boat coming down here that okay, we should do something. So I googled up a poem. I know a poet. It's very famous in Punjab, and the sense of this song kind of makes or the meaning of this song makes sense. What we are here today for. It's about his inner dilemma of speaking up or not speaking up. What are the consequences? What would happen? So yeah, I'll try my best to do a little thing. So we're going to do one paragraph and then Martha will do the translation. कुछ कहा तां हनेरा चरेगा कि मैं चुप रहा तां शमादान की कहणगे गीत दी मौत इस रात जे हो गई मेरा जीना मेरे यार किंज सहणगे.
If I speak up, the darkness will not tolerate it. But if I stay silent, how will I show my face to the candles? For the sake of my friends, I can't let the song die tonight.
इस अदालत च बंदे बिरख हो गए फैसले सुनदियां सुक गए आखो इन्हां नूं उजड़े घरीं जाण हुण एक कदों तीक इत्थे खड़े रहणगे.
This court has turned people into trees and they have dried out waiting for the decision. Tell them to go back to their own houses or be waiting here forever.
यार मेरे जो इस आस ते मर गए कि मैं उन्हां दे दुख दा बनावांगा गीत जे मैं चुप ही रहा जे मैं कुछ ना कहा बन के रूहां सदा भटकदे रहणगे.
My friends have died, hoping one day a song of their pain will be written. If I remain silent, if I don't say anything, their souls will never be at peace.
जो विदेशां च रुलदे ने रोज़ी लई ओ जदों पेश परतणगे अपने कदी कुछ तां सेकणगे मां दे सिवे दी अगन बाकी कबरां दे रुख हेठ जा बैणगे.
The ones who are struggling to live their lives in foreign lands, the day they will come back home, some of them will feel the heat of their mother's cremation and others will sit in the shade of a cemetery tree.
ये इंसाफ हूँ मैं दा पुत करनगे कि ये खामोश पत्थर दे बुत करनगे जो सलीबां ते टंगे ने लथणे नहीं राज बदलणगे सूरज चढ़न लैणगे.
The sons of arrogance will give you no justice. Their hearts are cold like stone. No one from heaven is coming to save you either. Empires will keep rising and falling like the sun.
ਇਹ ਜੋ ਰੰਗਾਂ ਚ ਚਿਤਰੇ ਨੇ ਖੁਰ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਚ ਮਰਮਰ ਚ ਉਕਰੇ ਨੇ ਮਿਟ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਬਲਦੇ ਹੱਥਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਵਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਖੇ हर्फ उही हमेशा लिखे जाणगे.
The colours on canvas will fade. Even the ones carved in marble will eventually crumble. The only words that remain are shouted in the air by fiery hearts.
ये भी शायद मेरा अपना वहम है, कोई दीवा जगेगा मेरी कब्र ते, जे हवा ए रही तकबरां ते की घरां विच भी दीवे बुझे रहणगे.
But maybe I'm mistaken, that a candle will mark my grave, that if the wind remains the same, even the lights in our homes are not safe.
कुछ कहा तां हनेरा जरेगा कि मैं चुप रहा तां शमादान की कहणगे. गीत दी मौत इस रात जे हो गई, मेरा जीना मेरे यार किंज सहणगे.
If I speak up, the darkness will not tolerate it. But if I stay silent, how will I show my face to the candles? For the sake of my friends, I can't let the song die tonight.
Thank you.
I've got some very interesting stats for you. If you want to be able to fight far right, you need to understand why they're so popular. There's a lot of anxiety there about poverty and about deprivation. I just wanted to highlight these issues in Orkney. There's a website called simd.scot, and it covers all of Scotland, including Orkney. And here are some stats from it. It breaks up Orkney into a number of different areas. I'll start out with mine. Dearness, Torp and East Ham. Income deprivation, which is universal credit, recipients, job seekers allowance, 4% are defined as income deprived. 13% of people are prescribed drugs for depression, anxiety or psychosis. There were 44 yearly emergency stays in hospital. School pupil attendance is 90%. In the data zone covering Glateness and around the Picky, 15% are described as income deprived. Yearly hospital admissions for alcohol were 340, drugs 32, 21% of people prescribed drugs for depression, anxiety or psychosis, and there were 93 emergency stays in hospital. In the zone that covers Hoy, Flotter and Grahamsea, 20% of people were prescribed drugs for depression, anxiety or psychosis. School pupil attendance is 67%, and 89% of people don't have superfast broadband. In the zone that covers the south of Stromness town, 10% of people were income deprived. There were 214 alcohol-based hospital admissions, 66 drugs-based hospital admissions, and 82 emergency stays in hospital in that year. This is 2020. School pupil attendance is 72% across primary and secondary schools. And in the data zone that covers Finstone in the south of Firth Parish, 19% of people were prescribed drugs for depression, anxiety or psychosis. There were 148 hospital admissions for alcohol, 84 for drugs, and 77 emergency stays. School pupil attendance is 80%. The OIC council housing stock has declined year on year from 2017 to 2018, to 2018-2019, and to 2019-2020. Speaking as an incomer, I came here in 2006. I hold dual Irish and British citizenship, and you know the sort of microaggression you get as an incomer, just xenophobia, it can get a bit much sometimes. So I just want people to understand it, and hopefully we can fight it. That's all. Nice, guys.
What's going next? It's Harry and Martha. Then you're back on. We've got one more reading after that.
This was written in anger. So apologies for that. I've been hacking away at it, even on the bus over here, so it's not quite finished. As husband said to me, anger is, it's an energy, so I hope to bring that at least. It's called The Crisis. It is they who have endured. It is they who have endured the loss, the grain by grain dishevelment of days, and the nights unseamed by gunfire, the broken glass of dusk under the shriek of engines, and the sky wove over with curses, endured the banshees on metal pinion, draped with the planful outlay of death, who endured under the sodium light the dust of fiery ghosts rolling through the alleys, the air thick and choking, who endured their streets, their homes, disyoked from the form of things, returned violently to the cell, to the raw matter, who have endured that the undifferentiate dust which was once brick and blood, metal and feces, hair and bone, that burns in their lungs was once the stuff of their denatured lives. It is they who have endured the departure, the unceremonied burial of life while living, endured memory, custom, familiar places abandoned for the sea, its beck and caprice, its swift hands, game to any not securing, lover to lover, child to parent, friend to friend. Endured the ones they loved, parted, plucked, and rolled forth, closed over by the sea's teeth, before time for a word, for a leave-taking, or to face the final moment upon the firm foot of understanding or frame of redeeming purpose. It is they who have endured the loss, the pain of severed time religion was built to answer, the sea taken tears, the sky swallowed prayers, and the grief that steals all voice to express it, who endured the opinionistas' bless or cursing, who endured the loss of their bodies, disassembled, reassembled by the camera's reptilian lens, which blinks when it eats, so it does not see its food. The dust, the sea, the fences tipped with wire, the cameras, the strange voices, friendly or unfriendly, the enclosed spaces, lightless, airless, the deaths, the dying. They have endured all this, continue to endure, and yet we are told that it is we who face a crisis.
I'd like to build a world of hope and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it I'll get one for next time.